Okay, everybody, good morning and welcome to the Council Cabinet meeting of... first of all, item number 1, do we have any apologies? No, no apologies, thank you. And item 2, any late items? No, no late items, thank you. Number 3, receipt of petitions, also a no. Item 4, identification of urgent items to which calling will not apply. No. Item 5, declarations of interest. We're all okay? Thank you. And item 6, the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of July 2024. Could I have someone who attended that meeting to approve those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Dinser. And second, Councillor Hazelgrave. Lovely, thank you. Matters referred, item 7 is the recommendations from the Executive Scrutiny Board, which we have, and I'll take them individually as we go through each item. Which brings me to the first key decision, item 8, which is Children's Accommodation Strategy D2N2 Specialist Children's Residential Homes. Councillor Hazelgrave.
Did we all hear the first bit? No, I'll do it again.
Start again.
Following the Council's successful bid with Nottinghamshire County Council, NCC, for DFE match capital funding for children's homes, so in support of the Council's Children Accommodation Strategy in Appendix 1 of this report, a total sum of £0.6 million is available to develop specialist children's homes. Approval is sought to proceed via procurement and with NCC to commission a children's home provider as a block contract. Details in 1.2 of the report. 4 two-bed children's homes will be developed, one of which will be in Derby or close to Derby. This joint D2N2 contract would run for 5 years with an option to extend for up to 4 more years. Break clauses will be included to mitigate any risk arising from the length of contract. In line with other D2N2 contracts, NCC will lead on procurement and the Council will be a signatory. These small homes will provide highly specialised provision for children and young people with complex mental health issues or challenging behaviour, and the placements will provide the care, education and clinical support in line with the young person's care plan. This is an opportunity to develop a cluster near to home of best practice homes as centres of excellence, providing wraparound services across health, social care and education. The homes will therefore be run by D2N2 authorities in partnership with the ICB. The homes will provide short to medium-term placements with a view to the young person transitioning to several options, including home, supported accommodation and residential settings when support and interventions have helped them gain sufficient commitment and autonomy in their care plan. In Derby, there is an existing successful hybrid model in place with smaller children's homes for children and young people with less complex needs. Market engagement has already taken place with potential providers, and there will be further engagement later this month and in September prior to launching the commissioning and procurement process. The length of the contract and the options to extend it, along with DFE funding, will be strong incentives for providers to bid. As corporate parents, we are charged with ensuring that all our looked after children get the best provision in the right setting for their needs. And for this reason, I seek the support of Cabinet for recommendations 2.1 to 2.4 of this report. And if there are any questions after that quick canter through the report, I'll refer you to officers.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelgrave. Thank you very much for introducing the report. Are there any questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Dinser.
Less of a question, more of a comment of supporting this really positive position in terms of, we all know that accommodating children in need in the city is a challenge, and we have to spend loads of money going too far away for families and for our costs for our council. And this initiative will go some way towards actually managing our budget better and providing a better service for the people who need it. So really welcome this report and the recommendations and wholeheartedly support them.
Thank you, Councillor Denzer. Any other comments or questions from Cabinet members? Okay. We have Councillor Cuss with us today. Did you have any questions, Councillor? Okay, thank you. Going to the exec scrutiny recommendation, the board resolved to welcome the proposal and to note the report. So we're all good. Cabinet, if I can take recommendations 2.1 to 2.4, are we all in agreement? Thank you very much. And then we'll move on then to item 9, which is Send and Alternative Provision Sufficiency and Capital Programme. Again, Councillor Hazelgrave.
Thank you, Chair. The strategy outlined in this report is a direct, bold and educationally robust response to a continuing trend in Derby of increasing demand for education and healthcare needs assessments, largely for primary school pupils, but also more recently for children under 5. Historically, in contrast with the position nationally, lower proportions of Derby children with EHC plans were placed in special schools or non-maintained early years settings, with more going to alternative provision or pupil referral units. It should also be noted that Derby has a lower proportion of children and young people with an EHC plan in both mainstream and maintained special school settings when compared regionally and nationally. The report makes a sound case for the development of additional enhanced resource provisions in mainstream schools and settings, the expansion of existing special schools and the establishment of a new post-16 SEND hub, along with capital improvements to existing schools. The strategy also enhances provision for the Derby City Health Needs Alternative Provision and specialist places for autistic young people with social and emotional and mental health needs through the purchase of a new building which will provide suitable accommodation. An enhanced resource provision is a specialised model within mainstream schools designed to provide targeted support for students with SEND, usually with an EHC plan. It enables these students to access and succeed in the mainstream curriculum with support and appropriate resources. Students attached to the ERP are taught in mainstream classes with minimum or no withdrawal to the provision which has a role of supporting teachers and teaching assistants in tailoring lessons in line with the needs of ERP students. A mainstream setting allows students to mix with their peers and make wider friendships and exposes them to a much broader curriculum than they would experience in a smaller special school provision, and so offering a wider range of options for study at GCSE. There will also be a much richer provision of after-school activities and sport. It's also beneficial for all the mainstream children in the school to mix and associate with people who have education and healthcare plans and also have special needs. The strategy will provide ideal settings for delivery of EHC plans for a wide range of needs at a much lower overall cost, as well as better meeting the needs of students with special educational needs, which fall short of requiring an EHC plan. And I seek support of Cabinet in improving recommendations 2.1 to 2.6 of this report. If there are any questions, I will refer to officers. Thank you.
Have you done this before, Councillor Hazelgrave? Well done. Thank you very much. Do I have any questions or comments from Cabinet members? Councillor Swan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Paul, for that report. Extremely interesting, and I personally think this is really exciting. I think that what it creates is aspirations for our young people, and it's something that we have lacked, I think, in Derby City, people with special educational needs, and it is a real opportunity for people to progress. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Councillor Dinser.
Yeah, really welcome this report. I mean, I think the idea of enabling special education needs to be met in the mainstream as far as possible is something that was a good practice many years ago, and I'm pleased that we're sort of bringing this back in to enrich the experience of people who are in special needs, but also to have them as close as possible to mainstream education and support, because we all know that one is the cost, but more importantly, the fact that people being taken out of mainstream education into specialists, is the enriching experience is reduced somewhat. And I think it's really good that we are looking at how we can maintain and support people with special education needs within the mainstream, whilst also making sure we enhance the specialist needs that's needed outside of our area. So I think I would really welcome this report, and it's something, I think, going back to the future, because it's something that was good practice in the past, and it's been slowly eroded. And I'm pleased that we are bringing it back into sort of implementation here in Derby City Council.
Thank you, Councillor Dinser. I think our children and young people's department are taking great strides here, and bold decisions that are really going to pay off for the future for our residents. Councillor Khan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As somebody who's been advocating and trying to promote the fact that we should not have to send our children with special needs out of the city, and to be able to integrate them into mainstream education by either building extensions to school or providing extra classroom, thereby ensuring that not only the children and their families have sort of better life and less travelling for the children, less cost to us, and all around better environment for the children and the families to be able to integrate with the friends and neighbours that they know who go to these schools, rather than to incur what is astronomical cost in sending them out of the city to other schools. And I welcome this.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Hazelgrave.
Just as a further comment on the report, I think this offers a real opportunity to children who do have SEND needs to unlock their potential and their talents, and certainly have the opportunity to do so in a mainstream setting where those talents may not have had chance to flourish in a special school. So it's a really positive thing for them in terms of their development. If I may comment on the Executive Committee's report. Yeah.
Councillor Cuss, did you have any questions? Okay, thank you. So I'll come to the Executive Scrutiny recommendation. For item 9, they resolved to welcome the proposal, note the report, and would welcome regular updates with specific reference to consultation with stakeholders within the community. So did you want to comment, Councillor Hazelgrave?
Indeed. I think we as a Cabinet would echo that and can give the reassurance to Executive Scrutiny Board that indeed we are in a process of co-production with stakeholders within the community, as we have some parents who represent children with SEND on that group that is working on it. So they are included, and clearly there's transparency in that process. Sharon may want to make further comment.
Thank you. Sharon.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hazelgrave. Yes, the work that's gone into this has actually been, we probably sold ourselves short on the amount of consultation we have done, actually. So we've, as part of this, we've listened to parents as they've applied for an EHCP for their child and what type of place they would like, where children have been moved from mainstream school or they've gone into elective home education. We've had those discussions about the reasons why. So that's actually informed what we need to do to go forward and how we need to support the more broader work that we're doing with our schools. This has been developed alongside all of our schools, and indeed when moving forward, if it's approved, the next stage would be that every school that is proposing an enhanced resource provision would need to consult with their parents within their school population anyway. So I think this is absolutely an ongoing programme, and one that we absolutely welcome to bring back to Cabinet regular reports on and progress that's being made.
Thank you, Sharon. That will be really welcome, and I'm sure the Executive Scrutiny Board will feel reassured to know that. Okay, so with that, we will take recommendations 2.1 to 2.6. Do we all approve? Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the budget and policy framework. That is item 10, the final accounts of 23 to 24 outturn report for General Fund, Capital Programme, Treasury Management, Housing Revenue Account, Dedicated Schools Grant and Collection Fund. Councillor Kozlowski.
Thank you, Chair. So this report outlines a summary of the Council's final outturn position, subject to external audit opinion for the year 23-24. The Council is legally responsible for funding some of the most critical services, and the rising costs in these and other areas have been well documented throughout the year in reports to Cabinet. With predictions of a 6.5 million revenue overspend 6 months into the 23-24 financial year, the Council was able to reduce this to 4.4 million by the end of the year. Rising costs in social care, compounded by continued high inflation, caused the Council to experience over £20 million of in-year unbudgeted pressures. The Council put immediate measures in place to mitigate this, including only recruiting where staff vacancies were critical to services and continuing to only approve spending for essential items and services. These mitigations resulted in approximately £7 million being offset from the in-year pressures. The main reasons for the overspend include continuing pressures on children's and adult social care services, particularly the cost of complex placements for vulnerable children and adults, and the nationally set pay award, which reflect inflation figures which remained high. The biggest overspend last year was on homelessness and temporary accommodation. And nationally, the number of households in temporary accommodation was up by 12% compared to the year before. This outturn position will require the Council to draw down on its reserves. However, the financial strategy of the Council is to replenish and increase those reserves with a replenishment of over £10 million planned over the next 3 years. This financial year being the first and where our budget made a contribution of over £4 million. Sound financial management is our priority. We delivered 96% of our planned savings and will continue to enforce strict controls around our expenditure, ensuring that every penny is spent is essential. There's also positive news, with 86% of spending on capital budgets achieved, meaning the Council has been able to continue to be ambitious for the city and make some significant progress on some exciting projects, such as the new conference and entertainment venue at Beckwell and the renovation of the Victorian Derby Market Hall and saving Ashgate Nursery. We've taken all the steps we can to manage our finances responsibly while facing ongoing unprecedented pressures on our services. We've continued to be ambitious and deliver for our city. We will wait for the autumn budget, but in the meantime, we'll continue to manage the pressures on our services carefully. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kozlowski. It's been a very, very difficult year, and I think that we've done our absolute best, and as you said, to apply sound financial management. And the savings that we have made, well, certainly everything that we could have done within our reach. 96% of savings achieved is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I really do applaud and congratulate and thank every single officer in the council that has managed to achieve that figure. It's unheard of. So it just shows sound financial management and responsible leadership is absolutely key here. Councillor Dinser.
Just, Chair, just to reiterate that not only is it 96% savings of the target has been reached, which is phenomenal, as you say, but comparing it to last year, the reports are indicating that it's only 89.79%. Now, that is testament to the officers in terms of how they work diligently, and I think it's also to the Cabinet in terms of getting more focus on this in the last year to make sure that we maximise. When we say we are going to make savings, they are realistic and they are going to be achievable. Now, 96% is as good as you can get, in my opinion. So I think let's celebrate that, and we'll have to continue to do this because the financial situation, as this report indicates, is still dire. We're still having to use over £4 million of reserves to balance the budget. We need to get away from that, and I'm sure we all will be working hard to make sure this Cabinet and this leadership with the officers will be making our representations for central government to change the trajectory of what has been happening for the last 14 years. We need to change this. We need to get it into a sounder footing, and it's going to be challenging, we know, because the finances nationally are not very good, but that doesn't mean we should stop trying to make a case for Derby for a better deal for local authorities.
Thank you, Councillor Dinser. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think with your permission, I'd like to make a few comments. I'd like to echo what's been said. I think 90% of savings achieved is a phenomenal achievement given where we were coming from anyway. And I think it's worth saying that this is a council where we can absolutely control costs. Costs are controlled. We have areas where we can only oversee some of those costs because of our statutory duties, and we can mitigate and monitor better the impact of some of those costs, and that work is going on, but we can't totally control them. And we know that adult social care is a particular area where that is the case. It's widely acknowledged that we need some kind of national and cross-party agreement on how to fund adult social care. And just to give a few, very quickly, if I may, a few facts about what's driving the pressures and some of the overspend in adult social care at the moment. It's largely driven by a combination of the increasing complexity of the need of the people who we do want to support. We want to support them, they're elderly and vulnerable people in our city, but we also have a statutory duty to support them. And also the kind of market-led inflationary pressures, because remember, we're largely a commissioning service for adult social care services. So just, for example, the average cost of a standard care package has increased by 12% since last year. And support in the community for older adults has also increased by 9%. And quite astonishingly, the average cost of younger adult support in the community has increased by 44% since this time last year. I challenge any council in this country to be able to just handle those increase of costs. The costs are summed to just a little bit more, if you bear with me, Chair. Some of those costs are driven by the things that the people who deliver adult social care, their costs, labour, energy, fuel and food and accommodation, they've all been running at much higher than the rate of inflation over the last year, and they've also been receiving relatively low payment for their services from the council over many years, and we have given them increases, but it doesn't always meet what they're asking from us. So just to say that whilst we are doing everything that can be done will be done to deal with that overspend and with those increasing costs. But ultimately, this scenario is going to bug councils this year, next year, right across the country until we get that vital cross-party agreement on how we fund adult social care. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the detail there, Councillor Martin. Councillor Swan.
Yeah, I think, you know, we'll all agree that those savings have been achieved through the hard work of both councillors and the officers. But I think that whilst we're talking about savings, we need to talk about priority as well. So I think that there is some difficult decisions that this council needs to make where they may not be able to deliver services, particularly non-statutory services, and that is always going to be a challenge for us as a local authority. So whilst the savings are important, there needs to be equal weight in terms of managing expectations going forward. Thank you.
Thanks for making that point, Councillor Swan. It continues to remain challenging, but we will continue to work diligently and keep those savings keen wherever we can, like you say, but we're certainly not unique here in Derby. This is reflected across the whole country, and you know, we are, in comparison to many councils, in a far better financial state than many of them. I'll pass over. Is there any questions? Councillor Cuss.
Thank you, Chair. Just going on the 44%, which is quite a huge amount increase on the adults supported in community. What is the underlying driving factor for the increase? And is it because of the number of adults we're supporting? And just following on that, is it likely to increase again in the next 12 months? And yeah, they're the two questions really.
I welcome those questions. Thank you very much. They're really excellent questions. I'll give you a few general points, but I'm more than happy to get Andy Smith, the Strategic Director, to give you a detailed response, or even to meet with him, because I genuinely believe that this is an issue that the whole council faces. I think that, well, so it's cost of younger adults, so that's usually, we're talking about people often with learning disabilities and people with mental health issues. So you're right, it's the number of people coming into the adult service has increased over time. More people with learning disabilities are living into adulthood, which is a success, and that's fantastic. But also their needs are literally more complex. They have, you know, greater range of needs. And my understanding is that is the reason for the support. I mean, for example, we have 333 individuals in the city who are very, very vulnerable, and we all want to support them. We do support them. But their care packages for that 333 people cost between £1,000 and £6,500 a week. So that in total takes up 35% of the adults' budget. And it's those costs which have increased. We're also seeing in other areas, for example, increasing numbers of people, as we know, with dementia. And very often care homes are saying they will only take that person with dementia now. And quite understandably in many cases, if they can put in place a one-to-one carer for that person because of some of the issues that people living with dementia sadly face or manifest as well in their behaviour. So there's a kind of real tsunami of issues. You ask a very, very good question about whether that is likely to increase again. At that level, I'm going to be really honest with you, I don't know, but I will ask. I mean, I would hope not. Some of the inflationary pressure, I don't know, I think I just saw in the news today, where it's affected by inflation, I did just see, I think that inflation was up again this morning. So it's something we'd have to get down to some granular detail on, but it's a very good question. I will ask it of the senior officers and get back to you on that, if that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I'll move on to the executive scrutiny recommendations, which was to resolve to note the report. So with that, we'll go on to recommendations 2.1 to 2.2. Everybody in favour? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, item 11 is also, beg your pardon, what does it say? It says Councillor Martin. Compliance with contract and financial procedures. Is that incorrect? It's Councillor Kozlowski, yes? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Kozlowski, compliance with contract and financial procedure rules, please.
Thank you. This paper is regarding carers and how valued they are in Derby City, and specifically the approval of a direct award to Community Action Derby and a contract waiver for Citizens Advice Mid Mercia. The various projects identified regarding Community Action Derby are supporting carers in those communities that are not currently accessing support services, and strengthening the role of carers in hospital discharge processes, improving carers assessment processes, including self-service opportunities. The reports detail all of the activities which Councillor Martin may wish to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing that, Councillor Kozlowski. Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Martin.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I have personally, thank you for that, Kathy, as well. Just an extra comment. I have gone through this in some detail with senior officers because it's a contract waiver for Citizens Advice Mid Mercia about that. So this is a service that, and I support that, having spoken with them at some length about it with them, because essentially this whole process, this whole contract will start to be properly recommissioned from next April anyway. The recommissioning process will begin then. They have been doing some good work in supporting carers. We are working very closely with them. It's an important part of our work to improve the service to carers, and we're working closely with them who deliver these services to actually improve how they deliver the services. There's been a recognition that both the officers in the council and Citizens Advice Mid Mercia need to work more closely together, and also it ties in with all the work we're doing, with ongoing work with engaging with what carers need. What we know, and this is something we knew before we had a CQC inspection, but it's something that also came out in that, and we also have certain groups in the city statistically underuse the health and care service, and they're not really seen in the care system to the level to which they should be. So we've received some money, government funding came forward, so it's not something the council have found, to have run a project with led by Community Action Derby to run that project, which would just be a one-off project. It's not ongoing funding, to try to see how those groups can be more engaged in the system. The view was taken, which I support after quite a lot of questioning, that only Community Action Derby are in a position to undertake that work in the time frame that it needs to be done. I think there's an expectation that most of the work will be completed by April next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Dinser.
Just, I think the report, does it correctly say sponsors Councillor Alison Martin at the top? It needs to be Kathy Kozlowski.
Yeah, we picked up on that, yeah.
Just for
the minutes. Lovely.
For the record.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelgrave.
I really welcome this contract that's going to be developed with Community Action Derby, one of our fantastic partners in the voluntary sector, because it furthers inclusion and supports communities which maybe have not been aware that they are entitled to that support, and it draws them into a system which gives them that support, not just financial, but also in other ways. Things like respite. There may not be any respite with these carers because they're not linked with particular organisations. So I think this is particularly helpful for everyone, both the person who is being cared for and the carer. And I'm particularly interested in making sure that child carers are included as well, because there are a lot of children whose childhood is kind of robbed because they have a 24-hour responsibility for a loved one in the family. It might be a grandparent, it might be a parent, it might be a brother or sister. And they also need to be drawn into that system and given as much support as they can so that they can meet with their peers and interact with their peers a bit more and have the pressure taken off for them. So I really welcome this for all sorts of reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Heathergrave. Councillor Swan.
Yeah, thank you, Alison, and Cathy, actually, for both introducing the report and supporting it. This is something that I have personal experience of in terms of managing many, many moons ago with Cathy, actually, on a project which was supporting carers of mental health. And it is interesting for me to see that actually, although there were some inroads then, there is still more work to do for carers. We have to remember that they save £162 billion to the government and the health and social care system. So anything that we can do that can make their lives better is an absolute paramount, I think, for this council. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Swan. Okay, on to the recommendations of the Exec Scrutiny Board, which was to note the report. So noted. And recommendations 2.1, so beg your pardon, didn't go to Councillor Cust. Did you have any comments? No. Recommendations 2.1 to 2.2. All in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, so item 12 is the annual report and review of performance 23-24. That falls to me. So this report provides officers, councillors, partners and the public with a high-level summary of what's been delivered during the last 12 months. That's April 23 to March 24, alongside some of the challenges that we've faced. While we have no statutory duty to publish an annual report, it's good practice to do so, and the documents contribute towards meeting the Council's best value duty, alongside the Code of Recommended Practice on Local Government Transparency. There are two parts to the report, Appendix 1 and 2. The first appendix is a summative overview of what's been achieved. In line with our City and Council Plan priority themes, that's green, growth, vibrant and resilient, and also working smarter. Alongside a high-level overview of our financial position, that's Appendix 1. The second appendix presents the year-end outturn for all commitments from the 23-24 Council Delivery Plan, which includes priority projects, milestones, performance measures and strategic risks as of the end of Q4. The reports were considered by Audit and Governance in July 24 and changes have been made as appropriate based on the feedback received. The final editions will be published on the Council website by the end of August 2024 at the latest. We also worked through the year to align with our communication colleagues on key achievements. The key thing is that this is a real opportunity to celebrate the achievements of our colleagues, partners and wider stakeholders. Do I have any comments or questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Heselgrave?
Just a comment that during this meeting it's just got better and better and even better with the kind of information we've been receiving and the progress we're making. So even though we've gone through 14 years of the toughest times through the Conservative and at one point Liberal Democrats austerity programme, we're very much business as usual, and we're providing a fantastic service to the residents of this city. And this reflects the kind of progress we've made, and it's something that's really good news. And it's a nice ending to this meeting, apart from the the confidential bit.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelgrave. Any further comments? Councillor Cuss, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank you to the comments from Councillor Hazelgrave. I mean, I guess this report and the report on our financial position, as Chief Exec, you know, I guess I just want to reiterate my thanks to everybody, all council staff, and obviously working with councillors and the Cabinet over the last 12 months or so. I think we have achieved a lot. I mean, it's incredibly challenging set of circumstances in which we operate in, which we know. We continue to push for local government's challenges to be recognised, and you obviously, Chair, yourself have written to the new Secretary of State on that front, and we hope for a positive response to the challenges facing local government, because we do have a really, really important role to play in supporting the government deliver its aspirations, be that around economic growth, challenging the issues around social and economic inequality, transport, all the things that local authorities, housing that we do that play a significant part in people's lives. So I guess just bringing it all together with the performance report and the outturn report, I just want to pay tribute to all council staff who've contributed to this, and obviously welcome the support that we've had from your Cabinet over the course of the last 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's appreciated, I'm sure. So we'll move on to the Executive Scrutiny Board recommendations for item 12, which was to resolve to note the report. So that's all good. Recommendation 2.1 is to note the annual report and annual review performance. Noted. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 13, which is also myself. That is the Q4 Performance Monitoring and 24-25 Council Delivery Plan. So, the Q4 Performance Report is the final standard performance monitoring report to colleagues on commitments made in 23-24 Council Delivery Plan, alongside a view on the progress made in the delivery of these. It represents a period of January 24 to March 24, with many of the areas monitored covering the whole of the period. As with the previous reports, a summary of key achievements is presented in the covering report alongside key changes in strategic risks. At the end of March 24, 65% of performance measures achieved target, with 55% improving from Q3. 93% of milestones have been evaluated as on track or completed. 67% of priority projects are assessed green or amber green, and there were 16 strategic risks with key changes included in 4.9 and in Appendix 1. Over the last 12 months, some achievements to note have included, under the green theme, progress made with the Sustainable Derby Board, ensuring we're working together, tackling the climate emergency, alongside progress on the mobility programme projects and Our City, Our River. We've also continued to rewild Alistair Park, working alongside Derbyshire Wildlife Trust, who successfully bid for 1.1 million funding from the National Lottery Community Fund. And special congratulations to Councillor Swan, who's worked really hard with the community on achieving the Sustainable Derby Board, ensuring that it was back up and running in a new format and in a really, really engaging process. Under the theme of growth, we've seen nearly 425 jobs created and 98 businesses supported. We are a key stakeholder in the East Midlands Investment Zone, and we've worked across the region to facilitate EMCA, with associated benefits that will be delivered in terms of growth. We've also worked with partners to foster business opportunities and skills in the city, for example, Smart Park and the new Kia Academy. Furthermore, more than 270 dwellings and shared houses have been improved to meet the Decent Homes standard, with 172 affordable new homes delivered. Housing does remain a significant challenge, as we know, and the risk score has been increased on the associated strategic risk. Under vibrancy, work is progressing well on some of our key city centre projects, Market Hall and Beckettwell Arena, and our longer-term plans with our strategic development partner. we've launched the City Centre Task Force to promote vibrancy and footfall in the short term. And we've continued to facilitate engagement in cultural events with over 371,400 attendances at Derby Live, produced, presented and supported events and performances. Under Resilient, the Football Hub has been completed and opened. We're supporting people to be healthier with live well checks and stay independently in the place they call home. That's activities through the Healthy Housing Hub, Handy Person Service and Disabled Facilities Grant adaptations. It's the second year of our Family Hub delivery, with over 11,000 people visiting a Family Hub between January and March 24. We've reduced the overall waiting times for responses to all referrals in our Adult Social Care Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, that's MASH for short, with the continued prioritisation of high-risk referrals. Furthermore, the average waiting time for an adult social care assessment is reducing, and we're working to complete more reviews in a planned way. Consequently, the associated strategic risk threat score has been reduced. And finally, we worked across the region on the successful launch of a foster for East Midlands. Working Smarter, the launch of MCA, development of Derby's AI programme, and sickness absence of 12.08 days, which is a reduction on the previous year's position of 13.34 days. There are obviously always opportunities for further improvement. There are also, obviously, always threats to delivery. If you look at paragraphs 4.9 to 4.12, they present a summary of those alongside Appendix 2, which is an exception report on performance measures that did not achieve target. The information is equally contained within Appendix 1, which provides a full overview of performance. And finally, the report presents in Appendix 3 the revised Council Delivery Plan for 24-25, which will be used as the foundation for our monitoring framework. And as with previous years, this will be a dynamic plan with any changes requested in our quarterly monitoring reports. So, with all of that, do I have any questions or comments from Cabinet? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cuss, do you have any questions? Thank you. I'll move on then to the Executive Scrutiny Board, who resolved firstly to note the report, and second to agree that the responsible officer and Cabinet member should be asked why the waste plant is not on the risk register, and if it was, what would the level of risk be? I will refer to Sam Dennis for a response to that.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that the risk score for the waste treatment facility is on the risk register, and you will be able to see that in Appendix 1 of item 13 at the top of page 5, and the score is currently amber red.
Thank you for clarifying that. Can we make sure that the Executive Scrutiny Board receives that information? Thank you. Okay, so moving on to recommendation, I've just turned the page. 2.1 to 2.3. All in favour? Thank you. Show of hands. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so item 14 is the exclusion of press and public. To consider a resolution to exclude the press and public during consideration of the following item. That under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded. Do I have to read it all out? No, yes, I do, okay, just double checking. And they're already leaving. Thank you very much for your attendance. During discussion of the following items on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act, and that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. That is the key decision at item 15 of Send and Alternative Provision, Sufficiency and Capital Programme. Do we all agree in the exclusion of the press and public? Thank you, Cabinet. Thank you very much.